What's up, family? We got Danny in the combo room today. All right, so you come highly recommended from one of our previous guests, Fabian. I was asking, I was like, hey, could you recommend some folks that we should have on the pod? And your name was one that came up. She just could not speak more well of you than she had already done. And so I'm so glad that we have a chance to connect. Really interested to dive in because I do content within the nonprofit work that I do, and on the traditional side when it comes to crafting talking points, copywriting, all the above. So I'm interested to geek out a little bit. I'm also interested in how early stage creators can
Mhm.
really take what you've done for larger corporations and just incorporate that into their workflow to
Yeah.
attract the audiences and the communities that they're looking to build. So without further ado, welcome to Convo Room, Danny.
Thank you for having me, Mark. I'm very glad to be here. Very surprised to be here, but glad to be here nonetheless.
Hey, absolutely. So let's just get rolling first. One, what got you into copywriting? And then I'm just gonna have you brag on some of the projects that you've worked on. So, like, when did the light bulb go off for you? When did you realize, I have a talent for this?
That's a really good question. I actually started off as a creative writer. That's my background. That's what I got my degree in. And when it came to getting my big job out of college, I actually started in workers' compensation. And I was looking for ways to finally utilize my degree, and I came across a position for a content strategist at my firm that I'm at right now, Heard at. It's a small firm in Omaha, Nebraska. And it's been smooth sailing ever since.
Mm. So you got started with creative writing.
Mhm.
You now are doing that for corporations that typically it's like you're kind of, I feel like a lot of times, and I don't know if this is true for you, but you kind of have to either craft or really respect the voice of the organization that you're working with. What has been your experience? Do you feel like you've had to create a voice for the clients that you've served, or do you feel like you've more or less just adapted what they've already done?
So when it comes to like my corporate job, my 9 to 5, yes, it's really easy for me to flow between the brand voices for each client that we write for. One of our biggest clients is a self storage company, but I've also written for lawyers, for banks, for medical providers here in town. But when it comes to like personal projects that I'm working on with clients, they do need a little bit more help when it comes to like brand voice and um it's really a fun experience when they don't really know what they want to sound like, because then I'm able to help them keep their ideas, but also make it a little bit more streamlined.
hmm So let's just double click on that. Somebody who's listening right now, I feel like the whole purpose of why they would listen to this conversation is number one, how do I find my voice? Like people might be using generative AI to try to get their ideas flowing and going. And then you realize, wait a minute, I sound like a robot. I want to sound more like me. I can't get these things to sound like me. And then on the flip side, I feel like there might be some people that might have found some traction, but they really don't know how and why. They're writing, but they really don't know what their voice is. Like, what would you say is step one to finding your voice and being able to duplicate that in the different
Mm.
types of posts that you're writing and even the scripts that you're then taking on screen?
When it comes to finding your brand voice, I have a couple of approaches. One is, would you listen to you? If you read something that you've written and you read that back, you're like, yeah, I wouldn't buy it from me either. Then that's a sign for you to go back to the drawing board. Um, I think that a lot about the thing about your brand was it's like you're communicating to somebody that you're trustworthy, regardless if you're selling something, offering something, promoting something. You're just trying to get somebody's attention. And the second approach I have is kind of it's not stealing, but when you see somebody doing something that you like, pull from that. If you like the way that they're speaking, pull from that and
Yes.
just fold it into to your own personal way of communicating. It kind of takes away the guessing game, and the stress of trying to compete with other people. When something works, it works. But it's important not to just, straight up copy somebody. It's good to, throw in your own personal charm into it.
Mhm. I feel like there is, I think there is a lot of, let's just, we don't wanna use the word copying as you said, but for lack of a better word, we'll use the word copying.
Yeah.
There is a lot of, emulating
There
happening.
we go.
Yeah.
Emulating.
Happening on socials,
Hmm.
particularly, I feel like in the B2B space, and with executives, like everything sounds the same. I mean, it's almost if everything was a color, it would be blue, and,
Yes. Oh, no.
and and don't let it be like on LinkedIn. I mean, it just all sounds the same. So, how do you find yourself creating hooks or finding angles that are interesting? Because you might be talking about, I mean, no shade to any of the organizations that you work for, but there are lots of competing businesses. So how do you
Mhm.
make that one business stand out when you're creating a post? Or is there a hook you have in mind? Is it the angle? Is it something else? I'm just really curious.
Um, One of the biggest things that I focus on is the intent. Your hook is really the your way in. When you're on social media platforms and you're scrolling through, especially if you're on LinkedIn, blocks of text, that's as human beings, especially in in the video age, where you're just quick to scroll. And so if you're not getting somebody within that first sentence, you're probably not going to get them. So that's my when I approach hooks, like even with like my personal content creation, and which is I do content creation on LinkedIn of all places, but I'm still able to capture people's attention because of the intent that I'm putting into my hooks. I'm trying to write a hook. I mean, that catches people's attention. I guess there's no really fancy way to put it.
And are there methods that you use that writers that may not have as much experience, are there methods that you use that they could deploy tomorrow? Like like a rule of thumb or an approach that you have to say, you know what, if you're gonna go for that first sentence, these are these are the hallmarks that you need to have within that sentence to, it may be that even you go by to kind of like
Hmm.
spot check. And maybe your method isn't as, rigid, as a creative writer. Maybe it's kind of like I
Yeah.
just go shoot from the hip. But I'm curious, what do you check off the list when you say, this is good?
Dang, when you ask me that question, it really makes me think. When I'm writing my hooks or like when I'm writing any type of copy, my goal is to frame it in a way that makes somebody continue to read. A lot of people like to put hot takes, um, and that can get a little tricky because some people take it a little bit weird, I guess. But yeah, I try to think about what what I guess a hot take would be. I also do look at other people's content. Again, we're not talking about copying here, but looking at other people's content that is successful, looking at how they're structuring their content is super, super helpful, especially if you're not really familiar with how to write hooks or write a solid post. Um, because I think sometimes, especially on LinkedIn, since we're focusing on LinkedIn, some people get really wordy and try to cram everything into a single post. And so I do highly recommend find a couple people that you like their content, look at what they're doing, and try to maybe try to do some exercises where you're not mimicking, but like following their kind of using their content as like a guide.
Yes,
There,
yes.
I got it. Boom.
Yes. Um, I'm curious for the sake of creators who are trying to do content, but I feel like, man, I just do not have the time. Every time I try to sit down and write, it just feels like a chore, or,
Hmm.
I have a lot I want to say, but I just can't seem to figure out a way to efficiently like break these big ideas up into small pieces. How would
Hmm.
you advise people to create a system to where they can write consistently and, show up daily on social media?
That is actually a really good question because I work a 9 to 5, even though I do content creation, and content creation is its own job. If you're not prepared to carve a little time out for yourself, during the week, then you're gonna have some issues. It's not impossible. I'm still able to do it, but you kind of have to be on top of your time management. The other thing I would suggest is to figure out a system. My favorite thing is Notion. I have a Notion page where everything lives, my ideas, my drafts, um, my content pillars, that it all lives in there. The other thing is to determine how much time can you actually give to this. Like I said, content creation does take time. You know, filming, writing, all those things are an investment. Um, Me personally, my Saturday, I give it up. Not the whole day, but like until about 3 o'clock, I'm working on things so that I can prepare for the week. Oh, batching. Batching is also going to be your best friend. Um, Getting all of your ideas out, is drafting it so you can get started and you can maybe work on things throughout the week, and little bite-sized pieces. Um, so those are a couple of things that I would recommend if you're trying to figure out how to get into content creation, even if you don't have that much time to do it like full time.
And for quality checks, I mean, I know some people swear by Hemingway to kind of make sure that their copy is a little bit more digestible to as many people as possible. And, there are myriad of tools out there, but I'm curious for you, what are your do you have other tools that you use to make sure that you're hitting the quality standards that you might be looking for, whether it's, making sure like, God forbid a typo creeps through, or, um, if there is any other thing that you use to kind of make sure that, you're on brand with all of your pieces?
I actually don't. A lot of this stuff is second nature to me now. I'm really just using a lot of my knowledge as a content strategist to drive my content as a creative content, as a anime content creator. So I don't really have any like backup tools like Grammarly or anything like that. But I do check my drafts before I publish. I read through it out loud. I read through it out loud
Uh-huh.
to make sure that, I'm not saying crazy stuff, or, stuff happens when you're trying to type things out. But that good old reading it out and checking my draft is where I'm at.
Yeah, that's actually a really good. I feel like there are a couple of uh, tested, tried, and true methods, and from the old school, I remember, in which I did this the other day, they were like, "Hey, you could literally just change the font of the document sometimes, and
Oh,
that just to
yeah.
see it differently because our eyes
See it
just get so
differently.
blind after you," and I was like, Imma do that today," and I, like, randomly did that this week. But talked we've talked a lot about the granular nature of, like, creating the actual content, but I really wanna put on that strategist hat that you spoke
Mhm,
about. For a lot of people, um, they might get into content creation and have a goal, "Oh, I want
mhm.
to build an audience," or, "I want to secure some opportunities through thought leadership," or whatever the case might be. How do you see, um are there different types of content that you feel like attract types of audiences, or do you feel like it's just all the same, just create good stuff?
Could you ask that one more time? I think I have the answer, but I just wanna hear the question one more time.
Yeah, like, I'm thinking for people who are trying to create content for different reasons, um,
Mhm,
the start might stop them. They're like, well, I don't know if I should do a newsletter,
mhm,
and, do a week-to-week newsletter. I don't know, should I just post, small posts on
mhm.
LinkedIn? Should I, consider Threads or Twitter? Like, should I or X now. Should
Oh,
I,
yeah.
um, sh are there different types of content that you've seen with the pieces
Mhm.
that you've written that attract the right audience? And by right, I mean,
Mm.
for the creator. Maybe we need to be specific to the
Yeah.
creator. I think the creator, most people, they are just like us that work in a 9 to 5. They have, the idea of they've got some expertise and some stories that they can tell that are very unique to
Mhm.
them. Might not have a lot of time to do it.
Right.
Um, what methods would you say, "Hey, look, if you're going to sit down and create some content, this is what you should pursue."
Okay. So when it comes to content creation, the platform you choose matters. Unfortunately, um, the algorithms on each of them are different. The intent of the user is going to be different. And the quality of your audience is going to be different. So, if you're wanting to reach somebody who will read a newsletter, um, don't put all your content on like TikTok. Those people probably are not going to be your audience. Some people who are on LinkedIn are going to be your audience. On Substack or Beehive will be part of your audience. Um, if you're leaning more towards like for me, for anime content creation, my audience is not on LinkedIn. There is an audience. There is one, but it's not going to be my main audience. I also own a Substack, and I have about 175 subscribers now. And so there's a big the audience there is smaller, but it's a lot more the intent is there. Like that's where they're going to go and find my things. I would recommend looking at like researching what types of platforms, like how am I trying to say this? The type of content that you're making, research it, see how it performs on the platform on other platforms. Does that make
Yeah, I
sense?
think
I feel like I'm
yeah.
struggling.
No, I feel like basically you're saying you've gotta know where your audience is.
Yes.
And
There you go.
before you decide to create the content, you really got to figure out, how do I get to those people? And I think it sometimes, I think when it's online, we just overthink a lot of
Mhm.
times because it's just like you feel like you just have to boil the ocean. So you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna do everything.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that there is there's merit to trying things and testing.
Mhm.
As a marketer, I feel like, you can't just make assumptions. You've gotta at least give it a go. Like, just
Mhm.
before you say, "Oh, well, this audience isn't here." Did you try? Um, but I think, to your point, when you said you've gotta see how that content is performing on whatever platform you're looking to pursue. And so, based on your experience, where have you seen some surprising collectives of audience with some of the businesses and clients you've worked for?
I would say that LinkedIn has been the most surprising. It's the last place I thought you would be able to build a community or find community, because LinkedIn is has in the past been considered like, this is where I go to find a job, this is how I find connections in the industry. But over the last couple of years, it's really started to take a shift, and more creators are finding opportunities on the platform. There's a couple of people that actually caused me to get into content creation. One is Jade. Oh gosh, I forgot her last name. So sorry, Jade.
I know who
And
you're talking about. Purple hair? Yes,
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 I
yes.
love Jade so much. She's like who I aspire to be. And the other one is Brandon Smithrick. He
Yes.
used to work for Kickstarter, I believe, and just has completely changed the way that I look at social media in general. It's small, and like I've learned that a smaller audience does not mean that it's a bad audience. It's actually a really good audience to have because they're really focused on what you're creating. Um, Another platform that I think is really surprising is also Substack. I would say that it's like LinkedIn, but actually, no, it's more like Tumblr. And
Mm,
instead of photos, it's blogs. And a more mature Twitter or X or yes, Blue Sky,
yes,
a more mature version of that,
yes.
where there's like really interesting conversations happening. You can build a robust community on there. Um, People are, as we've moved into the AIification of social media, a lot of people are looking for authentic, real conversations. And so I found that Substack has been an amazing platform to be on.
Yeah, personally, I run a weekly newsletter on Beehive, and I find that the newsletter audience, I mean, I can't speak more highly of it. I mean, it's such a um while it can be one to many in terms of
Mhm.
like a broadcast channel, but it's so personal because the thing I love about it is that people respond when it hits. Now, sometimes they don't say a word, okay?
Yes.
But like people respond, and I feel like there's a certain candor people have in newsletters that you don't get in comments on social media.
Yes.
And sometimes the dialogue is a you can really help people if you're providing a solution to something.
Mhm.
Like with me, I feel like my whole purpose, like right now in this season of the podcast and then doing this newsletter that I've been doing, it's like to be a resource to the creator economy.
Mhm.
And I find that and it's really not just the tactical stuff, but it seems like the things that are more mindset related and
Mm.
things that help people break through some of the ideas or the methods that have gotten them a little stuck, they're beyond grateful and will express that. And so
Yes.
I do feel like, to your point, um, it's been really nice because my newsletter is I feel well. I used to say my newsletter was my largest channel, but now the podcast, because I've been interviewing wonderful people like you, the podcast has been creeping up a little bit past the newsletter. But I say all that to say, like, I'm finding that even with the smaller audience, as you said, like the connection is so rich. And so
Mhm.
while I'm interested in building the newsletter, I'm kinda with you. I really wanna make sure that that intent stays there,
Mhm.
and I feel like, before we get into the idea of, like, writing copy that can just attract a mass audience, like,
Mhm.
'cause I feel like I've seen, some, like, general market content that you've done where you've talked about, like, some lists that were related to cities and,
Mhm.
you've, done some other things that seem like very general market to catch the attention of lots of folks. I'm really curious as to what gives you the confidence and or the assurance that like the niche you chose is the one you want to stick with. Is it just passion about the topic, or do you feel like you're committed to it because you've got this vision and you're sticking to it?
Man, that is a question, isn't it? I think that a niche or niche is a good starting place. Um, but as I have continued on this journey, I feel like it's widened. I was really focused on just like creating. So when I first started the anime anthropologist, my goal was to make anime a richer experience by talking about it from a purely art history perspective. Because that's my other big big love is art history, Japanese art history. um, but as I started to look at other creators, I realized I was really putting myself in a pigeonhole. I was really putting myself into a box. And my ideas that were outside of it, I was like, oh, but that doesn't really fit within the niche that I've picked. It's anime art history, it's Japanese art history, not just anime in general. And so, my recommendation when you're starting is to just create at first. Figuring out what you're doing is going to come. You're going to change as you go on this journey. You think you're going to be, the person who only talks about, content creation, but you may find other subcategories that fit into that. And so, like, keeping an open mind, I think is super, super, super important. And I also forgot the second part of your question already.
What do you feel like you stuck with it out of passion, or is it that you have more of like a strategic vision for why you're staying with this particular
I would
category?
say both. I have loved anime my whole life. It has been a major reason why I got into content creation. Um, and also, I have a vision. I think that anime has the potential to really shift the way that people think about marketing. Um,
Hmm. How so?
Specifically, the way that people interact with their intended audiences. Think over the last couple, I don't want to say the bad word since the pandemic, people have really been interested in anime as a medium, which is really interesting because it's been here for a very long time. And so watching companies try to tap into this new audience has also been very interesting. Um, and I think that there's an opportunity for people to, what's the word? Engage with audiences or their intended buyers in a more authentic and meaningful way. I think that a lot of the um, marketing lingo, like KPIs and all that good stuff, gets really um, overbearing on the process. And so I think that anime is going to be a different type of marketing, I think.
Hmm. Now, I'm curious for folks who are trying to attract like a general audience
Hmm.
to their let's just say if you are a a person that is a professional since we're sticking with LinkedIn for this conversation and you're like,
Hmm.
okay, I want to really just I want to make sure I can break out of the box of people that I know,
Hmm.
but hook people that I don't know and
Mhm,
create shareable content. Um, I noticed that you kinda did like a listicle situation with, one of the companies that you served, through your job.
mhm.
How do you go about creating those? And do you find I'm curious, do you find them to be enough of a hook to gather a new audience around a company or, a product launch?
Could you tell me more about this listicle? I create so much stuff.
I thought there was like best places to live in Atlanta kinda
Okay,
thing.
I know what you're talking
Yes.
about. I know what you're talking about. And then the question was, how do I, get to a more general audience? Is that the
Yeah, like,
question?
I'm well, let me not assume. Is the
Mhm,
purpose of a content piece like that
mhm.
to get people that are in that market or looking to maybe live in that market? It's almost like just a way to just get the bees to swarm around honey. It's like, "Oh, if you're interested in Atlanta or if you're in Atlanta and curious, okay, everybody
Mhm.
gather here." I'm wondering, with the work that you've done like that, is that effective? And if it's effective, how can creators use that type of methodology in the pieces that they're working on?
Absolutely. So with those types of pieces, the goal is to, yes, reach a more general audience. And the intent is people who want to either move or live in the Atlanta area. And so it's more of like this overview of the city, things that you would like to do, things that you need to know, like what's the cost of living of Atlanta is gonna be more expensive than where I'm at right now. Um, Other things to do, which I mean, yes, there are things to do in Atlanta. It's one of the biggest cities in Georgia. But like, what are things that people live there do? That type of post is trying to give you the best snapshot of the city. And so like if you're trying to apply that to your own content, um think about how you can give a snapshot at a very high level, and then get into some of the weeds as you get through the content.
Mm. And so for, let's just say, a professional
Mhm.
who might have experience, let's just say, in uh marketing,
Yes.
because I feel like a lot of not artists the artists are fellow marketers.
Yes.
um i- how can they take the seat that they sit in their corporate jobs and use a method like that to convey both their expertise and to get the bees to swarm, if you will?
Mhm.
Like if you were advising a client and you said, "Hey, if you're looking to create your first few pieces of content that can just really be general market, get people gathered around your content, I would recommend you do this."
Um, I think it depends on what the intent of the content is going to be. I do think that things that are informational, like guides, are really going to be helpful for getting started. Um, because when you're getting started, you're trying to build your audience, right? You're starting from zero or whatever. You're trying to get into content creation. You don't really have anybody knowing who you are. But being able to put like guides, like this is how you do this, or this is how I would approach this, establishes you as a um thought leader. I don't like using that. It's so bad. But
Yeah.
establishing that you know what you're talking about. So by the time that you're, getting into the more niche parts of your content, your audience knows that you already know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
And you're most likely leading somebody through their own journey.
I'm interested. So I love how you distilled it down. You're like, so a guide is one
Mhm.
way. Are there other types of content pieces other than guides that you feel like are effective tools to build an audience around?
When you fail. When I started, yes, when you fail. People, you think that, oh no, I need to tell everybody how I'm like so amazing at this thing, and oh my gosh, look at all the things I've done. Telling people how something that's blown up in your face is actually really good content. Um, because it also gives you the opportunity to reframe it as like, okay, yes, this was my goal. I flopped real bad. It didn't work. However, this was an opportunity for me to learn, for me to identify where I've made mistakes, where I could improve, and how I can reapproach this situation.
Oh,
I love that type of content because it also brings it down from you being like this pedestal person. Like, no, we're on this type of level. I'm telling you this so you can also avoid this. And you are now, skipping over my mistake, hopefully.
yes. Yeah, I think that's actually the value for the reader,
Hmm.
because if you're about to do, or even I love that even for like, because when I'm about to try a product, I like to know how someone has used it, the mistakes that they've made, and or if you're trying to use a software, I
Hmm.
want you to tell me all the lessons that you learned to and get all the hacks so I don't have to spend 25 hours learning the thing.
Yes.
I think that is very, very good. So we've got guides, we've got the how you failed type posts. Are there any other posts that you feel like are really effective for people to build an audience?
Journey content. That is how I started my content creation journey. Building a Building in public, that's what it's called, not journey content. Building in
Yes,
public.
yes. Hmm.
I love a good building in public situation. Because it gives me an insight of, like, where are you going, how are you growing. I just that's just it's my bread and butter. I love it.
Yes, I agree. I cannot tell you how many times I've hit follow in the past couple weeks on Instagram with a lot of the people who have been talking about, I got laid off, I'm starting this
Mhm.
new thing, and you can follow along and, follow along with me for the ride. I'm like, I'm following. I gotta see you on the other side. Come on. Um, or like there's randomly, I forget what his name is, but he decided to start a burrito company out of his kitchen,
Oh.
and then they've, like, expanded and, like, now it's, like, this beautiful brand, like, it's a whole thing, but
Mhm.
yeah, like, and he's, like, documenting the process, so, yeah, I think that type of building in public, I think, yeah, that's a surefire way to get people interested in your story and wanna take the
Mhm.
journey with. I agree. Um, are there content styles or pieces that you feel like you've tested and thought, "Man, this is gonna work," and it just hasn't?
Um, Specifically on LinkedIn video. I
Oh,
thought because there was a period of time where they were saying that video was going to be pushed more in the platform, and I tried it. I had my first attempt was successful. The second one, I was like, "Whoa, that was bad." But I will say that just because a piece of content flops, it's not the end of the world. It will flop. You're going. There is 100% chance that something you put out will perform horribly, and that is okay because you can
mhm,
always put it out again at a different
yes.
time.
That is so true. I find that, for me, it's just the whole idea of just getting the reps in has been the hardest part, because it's like, man, you just gotta carve out the time, do it, record the video, do the thing.
Yes.
And what's been helpful with doing this podcast is now I have a bank of clips. So, like, as you said, I'll be using a Saturday to kind of get my clip game up. And so I feel like that'll help me and really push me into the spot to where once I have a rhythm with that, I can
Mhm.
start even creating my own videos. But I'm with you. I feel like I know video is the unlock, and I've seen mixed reviews with video because I've
Mhm.
seen like, I'll post a reel on Instagram, does great. Post it on LinkedIn, crickets.
Yes.
Um, and but I've seen, to your point though, about people that we like to follow. I've seen some of these folks. Now, granted, they do have huge followings,
Yes.
and I don't want to name names. Let's scratch them. Let's just say I've seen people with huge followings on LinkedIn, like tens and maybe even hundreds of thousands for some, and their videos might only get a couple hundred likes or engagement. So, I mean, LinkedIn will humble you, and I'm curious
Yes.
as to um, the engagement rate that really makes sense for video
Mhm.
compared to like some of the um, more successful image. And I will say, I'm literally jumping around, but my highest performing content piece, I think, on LinkedIn was me at a networking event, and there was a photo somebody took,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, "Oh, thank you so much." And so, like, I just posted it as part of my, like, an image carousel on Instagram, but then I posted
Mhm.
just the image itself and, telling the story about how I'm like, I'm trying to do more in-person events. And I realized I was like, this is by far the highest performing piece that I've done. And it's literally a photo. Like I mean, it took absolutely no effort. Well, I mean, the effort to be there and get there, but the
The
the thought
the thought
that I'm
that I'm
saying is I
saying
feel
is I
like
feel like
there's a whole lot of there's a benefit to just being authentic. Sorry, I'm lost my thought because I heard an echo. Now I'm like trying to get my mind back, and I'm like, "Was it me?" Um. Oh, wait a minute. Did I lose you, Danny? Did I lose you? There we go. I think we're back.
Oh
Yes, I can see you now.
gosh. I don't know what happened. It's been I'm in Nebraska, and it has been windy. My
Oh
internet
man.
is struggling just a little bit. I'm sorry.
No, you're all good. So we'll probably right now we're picking up the conversation probably because we had a little technical something or other go on. But we were talking about how some pieces perform well,
Yes.
some don't. And the surprising experience that I had with a photo doing really well on LinkedIn versus like a whole reel that took me hours to edit. So I really want to like dive in and get some hot takes or like just rapid fire answers from you
Okay.
from some of your as a writer,
Okay.
some of the things that you're like, "Oh my god, if I see another one of these, I'm gonna scream." Tell me what it is that has been grinding your gears as a writer these days.
I cannot stand when I have seen like viral content on another platform and then I see it reappear on a different platform. Why are we copying and pasting other people's stuff?
Mm, that's a fair one. That's a fair one. And as a writer, wait a minute, I literally wrote this down because I was like, I want to do a whole video on this one day. Oh my gosh, hold on, bear with me. Oh my gosh. So somebody said the other day, resignate. And I was like, can can we just
Resignate?
clarify can we clarify once and for all that something can resonate with you or you can resign from something, but we cannot resignate. Like
Resignate? My goodness.
so that's what's been grinding my gears. It's so much so that I wrote it down. I was like, I can't. Uh,
Oh man.
yes. What is inspiring you as a content creator these days?
I've been really inspired by people just going for it. Over the last couple of years, my social media content consumption has changed a little bit. I'm a little bit more in like people who are like starting out on their content creation side of things. And it's been really, really amazing to see people just go for what they want. Um, and even if it's not turning out the way that they thought it would, they're still like, okay, whatever, that's fine. We'll take the punches. We're rolling with the punches. It's been so cool to see that.
Mm, mhm. And, you did mention some names of people that I think we both are, enamored by and are inspired by. But, are there creators that you're like, "Oh my gosh, if I had a top 5, like, these are the people you just have to follow?"
Man, on any platform?
Yeah, why not?
Jesus. Okay. Jackie Aina has been one of the content creators that I've followed the longest. I love her content. It is so good. And Anaya, she's on TikTok. She is a content creator, a queer content creator. She's amazing. Who else? Okay, I have to shout out Jade. I'm sorry. Jade, she's everything. I love Jade. Jade, thank you for
Yes.
being you. Is that 3 or 4?
That was 3.
3? Brandon Smithrick. I gotta shout him out again. He has completely changed the way that I've approached content creation. I don't feel like I'm like that I've been just thrown into the middle of the ocean. I feel like I know what I'm doing when I'm approaching my content creation and how I'm moving forward with my content. I've me, follow me, and the
Come
animated
on!
pages on all platforms. Instagram. Do I have a Twitch? I don't have a Twitch. LinkedIn. Oh, but it's not the an oh, yes, I have a face I have a page on LinkedIn, The Anime Anthropologist.
Yes. Say the handle one more time so that way people can know where to follow you.
It's at The Anime Anthropologist. That's THE, Anime Anthropologist.
Well, is there any parting wisdom that you would like to share with emerging creators before we go?
If you are starting out on your journey, just know that it's going to be rough. There's going to be a lot of wins, there's going to be a lot of loses or losses. Gosh, I have an English degree. I'm sorry, y'all. Uh, you're gonna have
Listen, just
a
don't say resignate. That's all I ask, but go
okay,
ahead.
no resignate. You must resignate. I'm sorry. But yes, there're gonna be a lot of wins and some losses. Jesus, I'm trying so hard. But it's about the journey. The most important thing, I will leave you with this. The most important thing about any content that you create is the quality. It's not the quantity. Well, for the most part, unless you're on TikTok, because they want you to upload like 20 videos a day, and I'm not doing that. But the quality of what you're is so important. Put effort into it. Don't overdo it, but put effort into what you're making, and the people will find you. I promise. That's what I got.
Thank you so much, Danny. I appreciate you for coming through the combo room. And look, you're welcome anytime. I'll be checking out your stuff, The Anime Anthropologist.
That's me.
And look, y'all, if you want to learn more about her, be sure to check her out. And we'll be back next week for another episode of Combo Room. See you soon.